last year, I averaged basically a deal a week. I closed 48 deals last year. I did 48 deals with zero marketing. Yeah. Literally just from JVs and then agents.
Welcome guys to this video. I am really excited to have Jared Hetler back on the channel. Jared and I did an interview a little over a year ago, right, Jared? It's been about a year.
Yeah. Yep.
And it was fascinating. One of my favorite interviews, Jared, and we've since become, I think, close friends. We've stayed in contact since that interview. We text quite a bit, and it's exciting to have been following your journey this past year and some of the things that you're doing. You'll reach out to me sometimes about, questions you might have or obstacles or things you're learning, things you're doing, some of your big deals. And it's just been really fun to watch you grow and develop in this business. When we did that first interview, we talked about like your first 10 wholesale deals, I think it was, and they were all on market. Yep. It was really awesome to hear from you guys. I'm going to put the link to that first video below so that you can go back and kind of watch that interview we did where Jared kind of shares about his first deal and how he got started and what's been going on. So what I love is now we have a chance to kind of talk about what's happened since then, since kind of that start, during doing your first handful of deals, to fast forward now a year or so to today, this interview. And I really want to find out, what are some of the biggest things you're doing? What are some of the things you've learned? And more importantly, or most importantly, somebody watching, how they can kind of say, okay, well, I see what Jared, where he kind of started and now what he's kind of grown and developed into. And I don't know about you, Jared, but a lot of people get so much inspiration learning about somebody's first deal and then maybe seeing them progress and what they're learning and doing now. Just like if we have like an expert on here, someone that's been doing something for a long time and they share things. So it's all just part of hopefully good education here on my channel and value that we can bring to people. So again, Jared, excited to be here with you. Thank you for making time to do this interview.
Anytime, dude. Yeah. Like I said, you name the time and I'll be here. It's a blessing. It's an honor to be on the, talking to you and have a relationship with you and stuff. And it still feels surreal to me because like I told you, I think it was like 2 years ago. I was like sitting on the couch with my fiance at like 2:00 in the morning, just like stumbled across your content. And it's like 2 years later, here we are, it's crazy.
Yeah, that's exciting though you're very appreciative and that really means a lot to me. Like you always tell me thank you and how much I've helped you and changed your life and your financial future. And that's so great. And I try to respond to you every time you show that appreciation by saying, look, man, you did the work. I just put out the information. Yeah, but it's like, actually did the work.
Yeah. And it's so cool because I have a situation too, where, because of the exposure that I've gotten from, being on your channel and just kind of being louder, about what I'm doing and stuff, I've had the opportunity to help other people too that are new. Like I have a friend of mine that I work with. He just turned 18 and he's closed, I want to say like 8 wholesale deals already. He's still in high school right now, closed 8 deals. And it started out because he reached out to me and he just asked for some advice and stuff. And I told him like, hey, look, dude, whatever I can do to help you out, I'll JV your deals with you because he can't sign. Well, he couldn't sign at the time because he was underage. So, I was signing his deals with him and stuff. And now we're close. We have a good relationship. We do deals together. And, so it's just like the go-giver mindset, and I appreciate all the content. Yeah, exactly. And I appreciate all the content that you're putting out. Even still, dude, like even several years in now, multiple years in, I still learn a lot from watching like the videos that you just did with Robert Wensley. Still learning a lot, dude. I'm taking notes every time, and I think that's a big part of it is being willing to learn and kind of just follow in the footsteps, because success leaves clues. So I feel like that's the key.
I think if you keep that mindset, Jared, you will just always grow and develop. I was at an event a few weeks ago to speak, and while I was there, I'm listening to some of the other speakers there, and man, I took copious notes and just trying to always learn. And I think that mindset will keep you constantly evolving and developing. If you ever get to a place where you think you you can't learn something from somebody. I believe everybody is your superior in some way. You can learn from everybody that you come in contact with. So that mindset is what I think has really allowed you to continually grow in this business. This past year, it hasn't just all been, upside and wins and profitable deals. You've also texted me and said, man, I'm in a slump right now, or man, I can't seem to get some deals to closing, or man, I'm facing the roller coaster part of this business.
Yep.
Let's talk about that a little bit, because
I think that's important.
It's easy to get on here and, hey, Jared, tell me about your biggest wins and tell me about your best deal, and just focus on how good you've done and the money you're making. And it's easy to kind of, maybe push aside that you've hit some real walls and you've had some tough times, and it hasn't always been what you hoped it would be, or maybe that you thought it would be, or, there's days where you feel on top of the world and there's days where you don't want to get out of bed, and that's just normal, right?
Yep.
So tell me about that. What's the reality of this business now that you've been in it 2 years? Is it all just, sunshine and roses and rainbows, or is it tough?
I wish it was. It would be a lot more fun to sit here and talk about that, wouldn't it? But it's true though. So for the best example I can give of that is, and this is true, my 2 biggest months that I've ever had wholesaling. So one being this month and the other being August of last year. Before and after those 2 months, I don't know about this month, and I'm not going to speak negativity into existence like that. But August. So August was a big month for me of last year, but July and September were slow, really slow. And so it's just like you said, it's a roller coaster. So for me this year, I texted you and I was like, man, dude, I'm submitting 5 offers a day, sometimes 10 offers a day. And I went almost all of February with no deals under contract at all. January, I think I closed 3 or 4. And then February, I got nothing. And then at the end of February, I got a couple, 1 or 2 deals, literally the last week. But I'm used to, so last year, I averaged basically a deal a week. I closed 48 deals last year. And fantastic. So that was my mindset going into this year, was just do a deal a week. And not having a deal for 3 weeks at a time in February, it's like you said, you hit a wall, and then, you have to step back and think am I doing anything? And I'm an overthinker sometimes. So it's easy for me to get in the habit of oh my gosh, maybe I have to cut time from this in my life to focus more on getting, more done. But really the reality of it is sometimes it's just, so I played baseball, and in baseball, sometimes you do the same thing, but you don't get a hit for a week. You know what I mean? Nothing changed. Your swing didn't change. Your timing's good, but sometimes you're just missing the ball. It is what it is. And I think in real estate, that happens too. It's happened to me. I've had multiple months over the last year where I've been slow, but it's weird because it always seems to even out. You know what I mean? It always seems to pick back up. And maybe that's because I'm adjusting, or maybe it's just because it's a roller coaster, like you said, Yeah.
I think though, what's important though, is you're asking the questions, which is, what's going on in my business? Am I willing to take a hard look? Am I willing to do some self-reflection? Can I self-confront? A lot of times we don't want to self-confront. What am I doing? Yep. Is there something I'm doing differently? Should I consider, some of the conversations you and I had was, should you consider expanding your market, opening another market? Is there enough opportunity just with on market, or should you expand into off market? I don't know the answer to any of that. It's a conversation that we have, and it requires, are you willing to ask the hard questions and make the adjustments and go through a new learning curve, or get out of a comfort zone? Sometimes we get in comfort zones, and that can be the kiss of death, is I'm just too comfortable. I'm relying on the same relationships. I'm not really building new relationships with new agents or whatever it might be. And if you're just willing to ask the questions, go in deep, and make the necessary changes or adjustments, that's when new doors open, or new opportunities, or you learn new skills or whatever. That's part of it too. And that's where I think you differentiate from a lot of people who hit the wall and then they let that slump define them. And then what they do is rather than double down, which is what you're doing, they actually go the other way. And they're like, man, I can't handle this inconsistency. Jared, I've got a friend who was a wholesaler and from Metro Detroit, where I'm from, and I've known him for a long time. And he was like an intermediate level. Like he would do around 250 to 300,000 a year wholesaling pretty consistently. He struggled to break out of that kind of price point or that income level. But he was pretty consistent. Mm-hmm. He'd been there for a while, and I hadn't been in touch with him. And then I, made contact with him, and it had been a few years. And I said, hey, how's your wholesale business going? And he said, I left wholesaling and went back to my W-2 job. And I said, man, why? Tell me about that. Did you get a good offer, or like, what's going on? He's like, no, it's about $150,000 a year job. And I said, that's like half of what you were making wholesaling. What's going on? I was just kind of baffled. And he says, well, I couldn't handle the inconsistency. The roller coaster income was too hard on me, was way too hard on my wife. I just would rather make half as much money, but get a paycheck on Friday than deal with that inconsistency. And man, that really hit me. Like I was baffled by that, because I thought even with inconsistency, you were making twice as much money, but what was it? Why couldn't you see past that, work through those issues, develop whatever it needs to be to actually create consistency? And you saw that there was a model there, like, there's a model there. Why couldn't you overcome that? And so, I think there's something to be said about really understanding entrepreneurship, really understanding small business, especially in the infancy of a business, which is, you're doing most of the heavy lifting. You're trying to figure things out. You're trying to go from this level to the next level. What does that look like? Can I handle the invalidation of making mistakes? And is all of that just too much? Or can I really handle the anxiety of not knowing and walking a little bit in the dark? How have you handled that? Like, how have you made that progression? Because honestly, Jared, you are in the minority in this business. A lot of people, if I interview 10 people about their first deal and I went back to them a year later, probably 9 of them would have left the business. Sad to say. I mean, it's just the reality of it. And so you made it through. You made it through year 1 and year 2, and now you're building a really amazing business. Any thoughts on that?
Definitely. So I can sit here and talk about that for a really long time, because the reality of it is it can demoralize you. Like, it really can. And I'm not going to sit here and say that I'm always, I'm like on a pedestal and I'm at my highest, or it is not. Dude, honestly, there may be just as much time where I'm not like that, where I'm anxious, or I'm like wondering, like, what's going on? What am I doing wrong? Yeah. But the reality of it is, if you can think that way, and you can try to identify what you could do better and what you can fix if you're in a deal slump, that's part of it. The other part, the two biggest things for me is being able to show up every day and be consistent no matter what. Like, every day, you know what I mean? Like, the 2 biggest things for me every single day that I try to get done no matter what is 5 offers and following up with the agents in my system. If I do that every single day, I know it's only a matter of time, because I have, several hundred agents that I follow up with, and all I need is like 20, 30, 40 of them to send me a deal.
That's all it takes.
You know what I mean? And if I follow up with them, all year, something's going to pop at some point, like, it's just going to. And the other thing is, I think your why is really big too. So, like, for me, when I'm struggling, the biggest thing for me is I have to provide for my family no matter what. You know what I mean? Like, I don't have a backup option. I'm not going back to a job. period. I told my fiance, like, we're retired from the W-2 world. Never again.
Never again.
Like we both submitted our final W-2, period. Never ever again. I promise. And so having that mindset and the confidence to know that, like you said, you show up every day and the results will follow. That's that, and the why. Those are the two biggest things for me. That keeps me, like, I don't have to, you talk a lot about, like, when you do deals in this business, you shouldn't need motivation. That's your motivation.
Oh my God.
And like, if you have a family, that's your motivation, dude. Right there.
I said this recently on one of my videos, if you need motivated, this isn't for you. People don't actually need motivated. What they need is to just do a deal, catch the vision, and then you'll never need motivated again. Like I haven't needed motivated in 20 years because I know that there's deals to be made and there's money to be made. And I wake up, like, my feet hit the ground in the morning because I'm like, let's go. Because I know what's there. I don't need I don't wake up and I go, man, I wonder if I can go get a deal today. I wonder if this works. I wonder if real estate's for real. Man, I wish somebody would just pump me up so I could get motivated to, pick up the phone. You know what I mean? Like, do a deal and you'll never go back to that. So true.
And maybe you need that before you do your first deal. Maybe you need to see the stuff like this, or motivational stuff to keep you going towards that first deal. And maybe you need, but once you have that proof of concept, I feel like that's all you need.
That's it.
Because like you said, dude, I never thought about it like that. What you just said, where you said, I've never woken up and said, like, can I go get a deal today? I have never thought that since I closed my first deal. It's always been like, when is my next deal?
Yeah.
How can I get my next deal? Yeah. How can I get it?
Where's it at? Where's it at?
Exactly. Yep.
So let's talk some numbers, because you told me that you looked those up to kind of be prepared. I do want to, if someone's watching this right now, I want them to see the potential, right? Like, what can you do? And so 2022, it's 2023 right now. We're a couple months in or whatever. So depending on when you're watching this video, but for you last year, what did that look like for you as far as number of deals, maybe gross revenue, if you're willing to share that, which I think you said you were, to help somebody be like, okay, 100%. What could it look like for me, 2 years into this business? What could that look like? So
is it okay with you if I start slightly before 2022 to show the jump that is okay? So
So maybe just like a year, doesn't have to be calendar year. Yeah. But what did that year look like for you?
Yeah. So on my first video here, I talked about my first deal was July. I remember the date. It was July 27th, 2021. Okay. From then until the end of 2021, I think I did $39,000, I want to say. And I was JVing, so I wasn't, but I think I did 6 deals for $39,000.
Yeah.
2022, I can't remember how many deals I had done when I jumped on the last video with you at that point. I think
I remember it was like 10 deals for like 68,000 was the breakdown.
Right. So that was my first 10 deals up to that point. So from January 2022 until the whole year of 2022, January to December, I did 48 deals and I made $292,000 gross. Nice.
Yeah.
So some of that went to that guy I told you I was working with, that I'm working with, that's underage. Well, he was underage. So I was paying him basically, commissions. Like I was giving him cuts of the deals that we were doing. Like it was his deals really. So he was getting a lot of those, but I think I netted around 260, like right under 260.
And those were all on market?
So most of them were on market. I did in the beginning of the year, all of them were on market. And then as I started closing more and more on market deals, those agents and other agents in my system would bring me off market pocket listings, but with agents. So zero marketing costs.
I would still call that. Yeah. Okay. But I would still consider that. The reason why I would consider that on market is because it's through agents and you're not spending dollars doing direct to seller
marketing. No marketing. Yep. So I did. And here's the funny thing. I spent some money. I was like, I think it was in August. I had that big month in August that I mentioned, and I was like, man, I want to ramp up and keep doing this. So I went and I paid an ad agency to run PPC leads for me.
Yeah, yeah.
And I'm in Richmond. I'm not gonna say anything crazy, but I'm in Richmond, Virginia, and I'm paying them like $5,000 a month, and I'm getting leads in like the country of New Mexico. And I'm like, so it's funny that like, and don't get me wrong, dude. Obviously, like with what you and Robert talk about, PPC is awesome, but the fact is you can do deals. I did 48 deals. I didn't get any deals from that PPC stuff. I did 48 deals with zero marketing, literally just from JVs and then agents. I think I did four or five JV deals last year, and then like 43.
And so I don't have my calculator out to do the math, but so there's an average assignment fee, but what's typically in your mind with on market, about how much are you making on a deal?
On market, I would say, so last year it was like 7,000 ish, like a little over 7,000. This year, I think I might've told you this. I sat down at the beginning of this year and I said, I want to make more money per deal, even if it means doing less deals.
Yeah.
Because I found myself chasing these like smaller deals last year sometimes just to do a deal. And so this year, my average is over 15,000. So I've got several, it jumped like 10 grand just because of a mindset shift.
Just a mindset.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Dude, it was crazy because I sat back and I was like, well, if I can get the seller down 5 grand and I can get my buyer to pay 5 grand more, that's an extra 10 grand, And so like, just like that. And so for me, but you said something, I can't remember the exact wording that you used on one of your videos with Robert, where you said, the funny thing is that you could try to make more money per assignment and you'll probably do the same amount of deals.
Yeah.
Like you probably won't lose any deals. And that's true.
The reason why I shared that is, so I had an experience years ago in my fix and flip business. So not my wholesaling, but fix and flip. I was working with a mentor and I was saying to him one time, I was like, man, I don't know what it is, but I tend to be about 10 grand off on my deals. Like I go into the deal, I think the ARV's this, I think the repairs are this, and then I flip it and I'm just like 10 grand off and I don't know what I'm doing wrong. And he says to me, Jerry, there's a really simple solution. Whatever you think is your offer price, just offer 10 grand less. Just offer 10 grand less. And I'm like, come on, it can't be that easy. Like that's just that's so obvious and that's so dumb. And I'm like, you know what? I'm just going to do it. And then, so I started offering just 10 grand less on all same offers, nothing different. I just offered 10 grand less. And then fast forward now a year, I had gotten just as many accepted offers. Nothing was different. And now I was making 10 grand more just because I was willing to offer 10 grand less. Like, the craziest thing that happened. And so like you doubled your assignments. You went from 7 to 15 and you probably didn't do anything different other than just offer a little deeper.
Yep, exactly. I was just willing to stand firm when they countered back, and like I got into and now, dude, it's crazy. Like now I'm in the mindset where I told my fiance this the other day. I said, it's crazy because last year I had a tradition where if I closed a deal or if I locked up a deal with a buyer and I pended a deal, we would go out and we would buy like steak and stuff. And I would buy like a new t-shirt because I like shirts. I have like a shirt collection. So I would buy like a new shirt and be like 5 grand more. And now I think about 5 grand and I'm like, man, that would kind of suck. Like I don't want to really do 5,000.
Yeah. Because you've increased your mental thermostat around deal size and around profit size and margin. And so that's just a mindset shift. We tend to think
it really is.
We tend to think, man, in order for me to double my revenue, I need some kind of like breakthrough strategy or some kind of special lead type or some new marketing channel or a different market. And we tend to think about all these external things when the reality is it's just a mindset. And, talking to Rob Wensley about the top producers in the country, the guy's doing, $1 million a month those guys have big assignment fee averages. They're minimum in the 20s, and some of them are even higher than that. Like they're doing $30,000, $40,000, $50,000 assignments average. That's how they're hitting these big numbers. It's a volume game for sure, but it's a whole lot less volume than most people think who are playing at the 5, 7, 10,000 assignment level.
Yeah.
Now you got to do 100 deals, right? That same 48 deals you did, hypothetically, if you were making 20, 21, 22,000 average, would be $1 million.
Yeah. That's what I'm saying. That's crazy.
Think about that. Same amount of deals, which means same amount of time, energy, and effort, same amount of work, because there is no difference in work. A deal is a deal, whether it makes $3,000 or $20,000, same work.
Exactly.
You got to do it. You got to talk to a seller. You got to get
a amount of leads. Yep.
Yeah. You got to talk to an agent. You got to get a contract. You got to find a buyer. You got to go to a closing. Nothing's different in wholesale real estate. So
KPIs are the same.
Yeah. 48 deals can make you 260, or 48 deals can make you $1 million. It's all about that margin. If you can create a bigger margin, that's game changer. But you will hit a point where economies of scale come in, and you're either going to need to expand into some other markets, expand into some higher price points, maybe expand into some direct to seller, like PPC or whatever, go back to that again. You're going to, at some point, hit a wall in scalability where you'll need to kind of do some adjustments, but that's just growing pains. I mean, that's just natural progression that you're going to run into. In a year from now, when you and I sit down and do this again, you're probably going to be sharing, okay, I had to do some new things, some different ideas in order to continually move the needle up. But isn't that exciting? I mean, that's just growth. That's just growth pains.
Yeah. And that's a good problem to have.
Yeah.
Like if that's what your problems are, it's a good problem to have.
Yeah. That you want to create those problems. If you're not creating those problems, you're not growing.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. You need to face stuff like that. You have to always be there. There's always some kind of challenge, whether it's like when you're first starting out, it's your first deal, how do I get my first deal? But when you're, a couple years in and you're trying to increase your margins, it's okay. How do I get better at, creating bigger spreads, or what market should I go into, doing market research and stuff like that. So there's always something.
You've shared with me, maybe to wrap up, what's been your biggest win? What's been your most home run deal? Or even maybe it's not even the highest profit deal, but what do you feel like has been your favorite life-changing deal? Maybe you learned a lot, maybe you made a lot, but what's your favorite deal so far?
So this is a property I got sent to me from an agent off market, but that I had done a deal with in the past. And the agent says, hey, the seller wants to sell it for, I think it was like $80,000. I'm pretty sure it was $80,000. And I needed to be in when I ran my numbers, I thought I needed to be in like the 40K range. So I offered 40 or a little under 40. And the agent said the seller turned it down at first. Then they came back. I followed up the next week. They were still where they were. Then they came back to me. And the agent said, hey, seller's ready to go at 40. And
How much time had gone by?
2 weeks.
Okay, 2 weeks. Yep. Okay, 2 weeks. Now the seller's ready.
Yeah, so 1 week later, I followed up. They still didn't like the offer. Then one more week, they said that they were ready. They just reached out to me. And so I sent my buyer in there, and he said he needed to be pretty much at 40. And I was like, okay, well, that's not going to work. So I went back to the seller. And I did some negotiating, and I said, hey, look, my contractor just walked the property. Here's where we really need to be. And they said, I think they would do it at like 35. And this is back still when I was averaging, I was okay with doing $5,000 deals. Yeah. So I was like, okay, that's fine. And I sent it back to my buyer, and he's like, dude, I was kind of hoping that they would say no. Like the house is a nightmare. So he's like, I'll tell you what, I will still buy this at 40K. But I want you to see if you can get more for it, because I don't like this house, but I think it'll fit somebody else's buy box. And I was like, all right, cool. So, and this is the same buyer I mentioned on the first video with you. Same guy. I'm really close with him. He's my top guy. So I pushed it out to some other buyers, and they said the same thing. And then I'm in Jamil Damji's Astro Flipping mentorship. So one of my buddies through there who works in the Richmond and DC market, he was like, dude, let me just push it out for you. And I think he sent it out on Investor Lift, by the way. Yeah. He found a buyer for $100,000. and I had it at 40. And so we split it 30-30, and then get this. His buyer wholesaled it for 20K more. So there was 100K or something, like whatever it was. I think it was 80K or whatever in assignment fees between me, him, and then his buyer. It was crazy. And so that one I netted 30. So me and him split a 60K fee, and then his buddy made 20 on top of it. And to me, that goes to show how important JVing is. You know what I mean? Like, I was always the guy that people went to JV their deals with in Richmond. But this time, my buyers wouldn't pay as much as his. So that opened my mind a lot. You know, like that showed me, even with JVing, you can still make big assignment fees. You know what I mean? And like, it also went to show me that just because, you know, my main buyer who buys like almost everything I bring him, he didn't like it, and somebody was willing to pay really $80,000 more.
Yeah,
Crazy.
I love this lesson. This is a valuable lesson that you're talking about here, because so I kind of take it a step even further than JV. The big lesson, like if you were to really step back or look, you know, from 30 feet down kind of approach, it's as a wholesaler, your job is to extract the highest paying buyer in the marketplace.
Yep.
Whatever that looks like. What does that look like? There is probably a buyer that will pay a lot more than you think for the property, or maybe they won't. You don't know until you exhaust all avenues to find the highest paying buyer. And there is a higher paying buyer most of the time. I've got a deal right now. I got a deal in Tabernacle, New Jersey. So this is kind of a rural area. And we've got the deal at 213. I've got a buyer at 258. So what is that? Almost a 40K or whatever? Yeah. Great deal. Like that, Now, when we were working this deal with cash buyers, I couldn't get anybody off of like 230, which, you know, let's say that I was limited in my dispo. Like I was like, made a little bit of an effort, talked to the people I know, pushed it out a little bit. And all I'm getting is 230, 235. Great. Okay. Make 15 or whatever. No big deal. Move a deal. Done. And I wouldn't have thought twice about it. But what I did is I said, there's gotta be a better buyer. Why am I not getting a higher price? I'm looking at the numbers. This thing, it should be a better deal. So what did I do? I just didn't settle is what I did. I didn't settle. I kept pushing. Well, check this out. Same as your story. I get a buyer who's at 258 and he's not a wholesaler. And he says, I got somebody at 285. I want to move it to my buyer. And I'm like, what? 285? Who's this? Where? Who is this guy? I don't even how is this possible? And he's like, I don't know what to do. And I'm like, okay, here's what we're going to do. And I'm like coaching him along on how to how we're going to JV on this. He had no clue how to do it. He's not a wholesaler, but I don't know who this guy is. I don't know how he knows him.
It's just,
but that's the market, right? Like
it's weird. It happens though.
Here's what I'm thinking in my mind. I'm thinking two lessons. One is your lesson, which is know how to JV. There's probably somebody in the market that's a wholesaler, and they might have a buyer that you don't know that'll pay way more. Lesson one. Lesson two is even bigger, which is what do I have to do to reach every conceivable potential buyer in the marketplace? What are all my options? Can I put this? Can I get a marketing clause that lets me novate it and put it on the MLS, just relist it on the MLS? Can I list my contract for sale on the MLS? Can I blast it out to every single cash buyer imaginable? Can I reach out to every player in the marketplace that has buyers? How can I go to sleep at night knowing that I extracted the highest paying buyer in the entire marketplace? How do I do that? And if you're asking the question, how do I do that? Now, all of a sudden you take Dispo to a whole new level. Like you're not just sitting around on Dispo, you're outreaching, you're texting, you're emailing, you're cold calling, you're talking to all the investors in the local market. You're doing all of it to get that highest paying buyer. That's when you know you're running a top-notch wholesale operation.
100%.
You got to find that buyer. You got to put in the effort and the work and build the relationship and always be contacting and building and growing your list. And that's how you're going to win in the wholesale business today. So
yeah,
true.
you talk a lot about like double down on what's hard. So if dispo is hard, double down on it. You know, like there's more deals available. Acquisitions is probably not. So if you're doing on market, you know, you might, if inventory is low in your market, that may be a challenge. But it's like if you're, you know, if like me right now, I'm getting a surplus of leads. So my thing is like squeezing more money out of the deal. You know, that's whatever's hardest. I feel like that's what you double down on, like you talk about.
Yeah, that's right. That's really great. Well, Jared, this has been really fun. Thank you for taking so much time and doing this interview. Guys, you know, leave a comment, say, Jared, you're a flipping genius. It really is impressive, Jared. And I'm so happy for your success. I love that you're just stay in touch with me and reach out to me. And I'm just grateful to be part of, in a small way, your journey and your success. And just to be able to share this whole business with someone like you, it's just been awesome. So thank you.
No, I appreciate it, man. I really enjoy being on here. I really enjoy talking to you. It's not a small part. You are a huge part of it. You know, it's like, it's just a blessing, and it's an honor to be able to communicate with you and have that relationship and learn from you. Well,
thank you, Jared. Sure appreciate you. Guys, if you have any questions for Jared, you know, leave those in the comment. He'll try to watch that, and I'll put your contact info again, your social media in the description if you guys want to reach out to Jared. He's a wealth of knowledge, willing to share and help out. And so thank you again, Jared.
Yeah, no, I appreciate it, man. Thanks for having me on.
All right. Talk to you soon.
Yep.
Bye-bye.